Hey man, Sly, once again, sliding onto your timeline. Here we got a video from the dog, Kidomaki, Yuji Itadori. It's no longer human. As always, gonna pre-file a like. Oh look, it's me. As always, gonna pre-file a like. And then we sub, we hit the bell, you feel me? And yeah. See, that's why I wish I did scripts a little bit. You could put this in here. And like YouTube uses this like data to better push out your video. Yeah, he knows ball. And he's doing these two, he knows ball. But yeah, without further ado, we're just gonna hop straight into it.
In the year 2086, over 68 years after the Shinjuku Showdown, the equation of the golden age of Jujutsu has...
And I think this is like JJK modulo spoilers, so if you haven't seen that, this should contain only light spoilers, so you should still be good. But if you want no spoilers, if you're that type of guy, then this might not be the video for you.
finally been solved. The deaths of Gojo Satoru, Maki Zenin, and Yuta Kotsu have rendered the politics of...
That's crazy. Gojo still looks young, typical Gojo. I think Yuta passed after Maki, which is like typical Yuta.
the big three families, a mere historical footnote. The sequel manga titled Modulo explores the remnant...
Okay, it's supposed to be the next generation. Like, these are like I think, grandchildren of Maki and them. Why would Bumgi Fushiguro still be here?
left after the equation
He's not
is
like my
solved,
goat.
and the numbers have cleared away. Yuji Itadori represents these remaining elements.
Yeah.
I don't need meaning or a reason anymore. Maybe there will be some meaning to be found.
See, now he is like a curse. See, he took the Batman route. Except, like, he does kill. But he's now like the curse for curses, essentially. Because Mahito used that reasoning to be an absolute evil. So Yuji's using his reasoning to essentially be an absolute good. A force purely for humanity.
From my actions several centuries after I'm dead. And I'm sure that I'm just one giant
boy
cog in the
chattering.
wheel. And I'll keep on killing
It's
curses
animation,
till
bro.
they're rust away. Because that seems to be my role in this war.
Then the symbolism here. Mahito becoming a rabbit because that's what humans are compared to curses. Yuji is an anomaly amongst humans to the point where he is like a curse. He was born with that freakishly natural physicals to where, like, before Maki had the joint happen, where she got like the heavenly restriction to Toji's level, where like she has zero cursed energy, it was stated that Yuji's stronger than her. And like, this is not including cursed energy. You feel me? So this man is already a freak of nature. He's already rivaling like Toji Light in terms of physical stats. And then he's only getting stronger and stronger by learning how to like manage his cursed energy, which is why people like Nanami or Gojo, Gojo's an anomaly, but people like, say, Nanami or the Shiesty Sorcerer, who have like relatively regular physical stats, still have crazy physical feats with cursed energy. Yuji already has feats of that level, sort of, without cursed energy. So he is like a curse to curses. He is a freak of nature. He was just born, and his only goal was to make sure people, got to die. He wanted to make sure people got to die how they wanted to die. While curses goals, like, based off Mahito and extreme simplification, is like the suffering of others. Not only because, like, oh, humans hate us and we're born off human fear. Like, the cycle is stupid. They're born off human fear. Well, no, it's not stupid. They're born off human fear. So you inflicting more fear on those humans is good. But if all humans were to cease to exist, all curses cease to exist because there's no more fear. You get what I'm saying? So in a way, it's like a cycle where they need each other. But the curses were taking the approach of like, we just gonna kill whatever we want. So Yuji took the approach of, I bet. Stand on that then.
Now, to call him Yuji Itadori is arguably inaccurate. The protagonist we knew, the boy who sought a proper death,
completely
does
different
not
man.
exist in this futuristic landscape. What remains is a biological anomaly, a being that has undergone a total metaphysical transformation. He's not a sorcerer anymore. He's a sentient
Nah, this is hard.
cursed object.
This is like thumbnail of Doom and Despair. I'm gonna use it for thumbs.
A living paradox that functions as humanity's ultimate deterrent against a universe that has suddenly become much larger. The purpose of this video isn't just to analyze his power levels. We're looking at his physiology. We're looking at how a human body becomes a static point in time, how the consumption of the dead paintings and the King of Curses rewrote his genetic code, and why his behavior in chapter 20, specifically
look how tough my look, man.
His emotional detachment is the terrifying result of a man who knows he has become a monster.
And you know what's tough about this? Even if it's not him moving like that because he feels like he's become a monster, you gotta peep. This is like part of what Gojo and Sukuna symbolize. Like even Jogo kind of symbolized it a little bit, to where with power, like you become bored. So when he's fighting Sukuna, he was going crazy, and then when he died, Sukuna was like, "Yo, hey, fear not. At least you were strong." People who cling to power, once they're done with like whatever quest they're looking for, that power starts to lose its meaning, because during that quest they either seek, wisdom on top of it, or power that is so unmatched that they no longer exist within the realm of like regular people. So you take a look at someone like Gojo. He was normal. He did take a break and then got somebody killed. So then he never takes a break again. He never deactivates Infinity. He, has all this power, and there's responsibility to it, which is why we don't always see him. But besides that, there's like a cold air to his character. Despite him being goofy, when you see him being serious, that's who he really is. That goofiness is also a part of him, but it's more of a facade, because with that power comes a fiendishly high amount of loneliness. And that was something Sukuna struggled with, but he balanced out with just more strength. So when he made it to the top, he made the decision to forego his humanity essentially for more strength and the ability to potentially fight more people. So he wouldn't be as lonely. While with Gojo, he chose the humanity route. I'm going to raise more people, and even if I don't get to experience the benefits of having people like around my level, my students won't go through the same loneliness I suffer from. And now we see Yuji's at that point. Because if Yuji wasn't at that point, JJK would have perfectly concluded and there'd be no need for a sequel.
The post-human state of Yuji Itadori. The narrative of Modulo places us in a world that has moved on. The new protagonist, Yuka, and Tsurugi Okotsu exist in a Japan where the threat is no longer just terrestrial spirits, but Cimmerians, a new alien race. If this were the standard shonen timeskip of 5 or 10 years, Yuji's youth would be unremarkable.
Yeah.
But the gap is over 68 years.
It is like grandchildren.
Kuchisaki, in this timeline, she's explicitly depicted as elderly.
Yeah. I bet he never thought his granddad's last wish will haunt him to the end of his days. I think this is I don't think this is Yuji. It could be Yuji. I last saw him at Hana's funeral. It could be Yuji. He may seem like a musclehead, but he's actually really sensitive. This probably is Yuji. He never thought his granddad's last. Yes, because he's trying to make people have like live a happy life. But look, Nobara finally has the money she was looking for. Curses aren't as much of a problem, and a lot of that sacrifice is probably, one, Gojo's gone, so the balance is different, but also Yuji is so powerful. And unlike Gojo, where Yuji is like a powerful human force, he is like a bunch of different things. He's like Ichigo. So his being powerful doesn't make the system need to like jerk and counterbalance it so strong. He's like an anomaly in and of itself. And it takes like the power leading to loneliness dynamic to its edge.
She has followed the natural laws of entropy. Her cells have aged and her body is shutting down. Compare this to Yuji Itadori.
Yeah, he looks younger, honestly.
As he did in his late teens. This isn't a breathing technique. This isn't a cosmetic cursed technique.
60 years.
This is biological stasis. By anchoring Yuji against an elderly Nobara, the narrative confirms the first hypothesis. Yuji Itadori has exited the biological cycle of life and death. He's no longer an organism that processes time. He is an object that exists within it. Now, how does a human body achieve stasis? Well, the answer was planted in the original manga and has since bloomed in Modulo.
Yuji's supposed to be like the perfect person, and then cursed objects allow people to live like essentially forever, but they're in stasis. So like, I watched a video actually on like ranking immortalities in JJK, and one of the things they talked about is how this is a top tier method, but like you get only a lifetime, and then you have to go into stasis because, say for example, Sukuna, if he were to die, he's dead. But if he were to get close to death and then spam the same technique, he would essentially be able to come back because they use vessels in a younger body and essentially do it over and over and over and over again. You get what I'm saying? So because Yuji, oh, this is deja vu, but because Yuji is a cursed womb painting, as he's Big Boso's brother, there's that. Then because he's been bathing in Sukuna's cursed energy, he is kind of like a cursed object of Sukuna's. The same way Sukuna consumed like his old body to get some of his energy back. It's the same way you could argue Yuji's body is like a cursed object. Not only is it like a cursed object, it's like a cursed womb painting, which makes him kind of like a curse. Curses don't die. So he has all the benefits of the humans, the emotions, the adrenaline, the humanity, so to speak. But now that he's living for so long and so long and so long, you can argue that that starts to dull. Because part of those things that makes us human is the fact that things are fleeting. And then take someone like Yuji, who noticed a girl who was bigger in the past, who had a crush on him, and he noticed, like, yo, you lost a lot of weight. Good, good on you. This is a very compassionate person. And then now, this is what, like, it shows you the dynamic of, one, the loneliness of power, but what an endless amount of time does to someone.
Chapter 220, Shoko theorized that Yuji's body had become a cursed object itself. At the time, it seemed like a metaphor for its durability. But in Modulo, it is the literal medical
Being very
diagnosis.
serious.
Yuji didn't just contain Sukuna. He was steeped in his cursed energy. He consumed the cursed womb death paintings.
Yep.
He was engineered by Kenjaku. This cocktail of special grade biological material.
Mind you, considering the fact that Kenjaku wanted to create chaos and he kind of gave up on immortality, it's ironic because if he wanted, like, if you think about it, it makes more sense narratively for him to have created Yuji for that purpose. Because now that Yuji's immortal, Kenjaku would just put his brain in that body that is in stasis, and then boom. Perfect. He won't have to switch bodies anymore, and his only debuff is if someone can, like, speed blitz and decapitate him. But this is Itadori Yuji.
Didn't just sit in his stomach. It overwrote his humanity. With that said, what does it mean to be a cursed object?
Smoking chalk, bro.
Well, a cursed object like the prison realm or Sukuna's fingers is defined by its immutability. It cannot be destroyed by normal means, and crucially, it does not age. It is a crystallized form of existence.
Yes.
And because the cells of Yuji are now saturated with steeped cursed energy,
it doesn't age. I feel like an old auntie every time I met with Itadori. I wouldn't have a problem with that normally. But when he gets that face looking all apologetic, it makes me want to knock some sense into him. Okay, so yeah, I'll look, they have phones. But yeah,
they have taken on the properties of a cursed object. He does not age because cursed objects do not age. This creates a somewhat tragic existence for the character. We often think of immortality as a gift, but for Yuji, it is a mechanical function of his body. He is a living cursed object.
Okay, there.
He is durable, not because he reinforces his body with cursed energy, but because his skin has the metaphysical properties of a special grade artifact. That explains why in Modulo, we see him tanking attacks from the Sumerians without flinching.
God.
He isn't tough just for a human. He is structurally incompatible with damage the way a human is. This advantage is also what contributes to his enhanced version of RCT. In the original manga, RCT was a massive drain on stamina. Multiplying negative energy to create positive energy is inefficient. Fortunately for Yuji, this is less of a problem. Because he has mastered blood manipulation and because his body creates blood with the efficiency of a cursed spirit, he utilizes a regenerative loop per se. He simply commands his blood to stitch his body back together. So as long as he has cursed energy to command the blood, he cannot bleed out and he cannot suffer organ failure. Now, one of the craziest revelations in chapter 20 is the normalization of a miracle. In the original manga, the Black Flash was a spatial distortion, occurring when cursed energy applied.
Right, but peep this. He is a physical cursed spirit. So his cursed energy is now with his... Because even if this whole he's a cursed object didn't take place, any human who lives essentially for like ever, right? Yuji was already a prodigy with Black Flash, mainly because he sucked with it at first. His cursed energy would lag behind his physical attacks. That's actually fire, because then you just know you just have to up your timing a little bit, and then boom. You get what I'm saying? It's a lot easier than someone whose thing is synonymous with their attack, because like you won't get it to this precise because it's already kind of perfect. So your body already has a mechanism to do that, but not within the 0.00001 seconds. But because his was already delayed, he had to work on catching it up. So when doing that, he's been fine-tuning it so long that it's like, oh, if I actually catch it up and then delay it by like this much seconds, Black Flash. And then like any person with like 60 years of experience is going to increase in mastery to the point where it's almost inhuman. But now because he is this cursed object, you can argue that he is like, no, he's not human nor cursed energy separate. They're the same entity, which in theory would mean it could spam it. Like just us. He essentially becomes One Punch Man because Black Flash multiplies your abilities.
Within 1 million,
I think by 120%.
A physical hit. It was based on probability. No one, not even Gojo Satoru, could do it at will. It was described as being in the zone. But in chapter 20 of Modulo, Yuji performs a Black Flash, but he doesn't scream, he doesn't focus. It's shown as a casual attack to clear a minor enemy. This rewrites the power system. For a Black Flash to be casual, it implies that Yuji's nervous system and his cursed energy flow are now perfectly synchronized. There is no lag between his thought, his muscle movement, and his energy output. This once again confirms that Yuji has evolved past the human limitations of the nervous system.
Right.
A human sorcerer has a delay, synapses fire, muscle contract, energy flows. Yuji's steep.
An example too is when you work out, sometimes we stress this mind-muscle link or mind-muscle communication. Like the ability to essentially not give up immediately, because sometimes your mind is just telling you like, oh, let's be safe, let's cut it here. But your mind like makes you be safe, like let's say this much, but only to like, it being fatal is this much. Only to it being injury is this much. So you still have about half of that length, about this much worth of room you can actually push before you risk injury. So you prioritize that mind-muscle connection to where like you can get that up. You can push yourself to the absolute limit. And this is someone who essentially has that down to like the atomic level, especially because he's been dealing with using the blood instead of traditional RCT, instead of letting cursed energy flow. And again, instead of being someone who was aware of cursed energy from birth, someone who had to learn it, it gives him an advantage. It gives you a disadvantage originally, but then with time, it's like an exponential function. It's like, or just think of it as like a squared function. You started off as like 1,000, so you're better than me, so like by such an apparent degree. But after a certain amount of time, once I pass that 1,000, I'm going to get better than you by so much, to where once I hit that 1,000 you're at, you throw that into my function, 1,000 squared is 1,000 times bigger than 1,000. You know what I'm saying?
The body conducts energy instantaneously. This at-will Black Flash compatibility means that his standard output effectively has the multiplier. He isn't relying on luck anymore. He has mathematically solved the impact distortion. This anchors his status as the strongest in the Modulo era. He generates critical hits as a baseline function of his moveset. Or maybe that was just a coincidence and Gege wanted a hype moment for Yuji. Who knows, I guess we'll see. Now that we've covered the body, we must look at the mind. This is the most tragic aspect of his post-human state. As I mentioned before, the enemies in Modulo are Sumerians. They of course are alien beings. They wield a power source called Rololuka, which is identical to cursed energy. They also have their own cursed spirits called Kalyans. In chapter 20, Yuji doesn't rush in to crush Dabura or save Yuka. In fact, he avoids the battle entirely. Now, he does later intervene, but only to subjugate low-level cursed spirits and to stop a fight between random Sumerians and humans. But why? Is he afraid? Well, no, I don't think so. Yuji is likely the strongest being on the planet.
Yeah, he's the hydrogen bomb now.
The problem is that Yuji has adopted the role of the deterrent. In the past, Gojo was the deterrent, but he was active. He wanted to change the world. Yuji's deterrence is more so passive. He is the aloner. He lives...
He has no choice. It's like the difference between someone doing something they want to do it and doing something because they have to do it. Yuji's a good enough person to want to do it, but at this point now, he is the strongest person, so he has to do it. So even though two things can be true, because no one else is as strong as him, even if they want to be the deterrent, they're unable to. Because even if they were the deterrent, they wouldn't be the primary deterrent when compared to Yuji Itadori himself. Again, I think this is really good from Gege. I think he's beating the allegations of being like a bad writer, because this just nicely continues on a lot of the themes that were talked about in JJK. It's like, yeah, I know it's a sequel series, so like it should, but he's doing it in a really good narrative way.
As a hermit, because his mere presence distorts the balance. If he does act, he resolves the conflict instantly, but he also robs the new generation of their
chance to grow.
Or worse, he risks breaking the world he's trying to save. His avoidance in chapter 20 is the behavior of a nuclear weapon that has gained sentience. He knows that if he does detonate,
he said, "Wouldn't this be unfair if I only knocked them all out?"
or fight seriously, the collateral damage might be too high. He is the cog that has become the machine, and the machine only engages when the system is about.
I think it's a good analogy, because Gojo was working within the machine, but when you're the strongest, you become the machine. So if Gojo approached things differently and took it all upon himself, he would have ruined the balance, they would have jumped him, etc. But because he decided to do what they didn't expect him to do and entrust the youth, allow them to become stronger, allow them to struggle, the forces of evil didn't win in the long run. So now Yuji has a decision to make, but it's like, as someone who experienced what happened with his sensei, it's now to the point where it's like, I just saw him make the right choice. So what, like, you expect me to make the wrong choice? Like, this is like the only choice for people like us, people who are the strongest. So now it's like, of course he's going to play like the deterrent role, and he understands very clearly, like, if Gojo Sensei did all this back in the day, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
To crash. That explains why he said
he's just not doing it with optimism.
Yuji Itadori, which is a notion Gojo himself once conveyed. I mean, the thematic parallel is so tangible.
Look,
you feel it.
Isn't it, Sensei? Like, he's talking to, like, come on, bro.
Yuji Itadori is, in a sense, a man out of time. And that is the tragedy of the modulo. The very first chapter of the manga gave Yuji a goal: die a proper death. He wanted to die surrounded by people.
And now he can't die.
That this wish has been denied.
Yeah, because now he can't die, and to take it a step further, everybody he knows, by the time he does die, will probably already be dead.
Nobara is old and likely dying. Megumi's status is unknown or deceased. Yuji is young. He will watch Yuka die. He will watch Tsurugi die. He will watch the entire next generation die.
That's
because
crazy.
He is a living cursed object, he cannot have a proper death.
And he's putting a distance between himself and those people now. It's like 4 generations from now, 2 generations from now maybe. Unless he does something very like crazy in Modulo, like he saved the world himself, the family members of the people that are like, 2-3 generations removed from his best friends are going to know who he is. So he's living a life to where he has no family. And if we want to make like the assumption that he can like procreate, he's a special case. So I don't know if his kids would get that immortality. Because one of the worst things about having immortality is no matter who your family is, they're eventually going to pass. So you need to find somebody compatible with you. And if you can't, say you're like a Viltrumite, a Saiyan, or Kryptonian, one of those alien races, your kids will at least have the abilities you have. So at the very least, your kids will live as long as you live. And then, you know, you just essentially get all of your human interaction off your kids, and then your grandkids, and then your great-grandkids, and that would be something that could ground you.
Objects do not die, they only wait. So Yuji's avoidant behavior is also a defense mechanism. He cannot afford to form deep connections with Yuka and Tsurugi because to him they're just mayflies. They burn bright and they die fast. He is in essence the stone in the river. This recontextualizes his cog mentality. He has accepted that he is a function,
now he is the bystander.
not a person. A person lives and dies. A cog spins forever.
Spin on!
So to answer the question, is Yuji Itadori a human? Well, physically, he is a cursed object wrapped in the skin of a boy, fueled by a supernatural blood system and armored by the genetics of curses. Mentally, he is a bodhisattva, detached, infinitely patient, and sorrowful. Functionally, he is a weapon of mass destruction that refuses to fire until the very last second. Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo isn't a sequel about fighting aliens. It is a study of what happens when the hero survives the war but loses his humanity in the process. Yuji Itadori
That's a good.
won.
I like that.
Survived
It's a good pull.
Sukuna. He survived Kenjaku. But the price of that survival was to become the very thing
Kind of
he
losing
fought
himself.
against, a monster that lives forever. With that said, that is it for the video. If you guys liked it, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe. And also, there should be 2 videos on.
Shout out to Kidomaki, man. I watched some of his videos in my spare time, so I'm glad I was able to bring that to my channel. Especially some good JJK content. And yeah, I gotta do better, man. Only a 10th of the views correlate to the likes, bro. I don't take none of like. But yeah, y'all know time to find me next. Peace.